Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriation, Housing now convenes this public hearing. The public hearing notices were given to the media on Friday, November 8th, and on Tuesday, November 19th. And for the record, today is Tuesday, today is Friday. The time now is 9:07. The committee will hear and accept testimonies, both oral and written, on the following. Bill number 84-35 COR, introduced by Senator Sabina Flores Perez, co-sponsored by Speaker Tina Rose Munoz Barnes and Senator Regine Bescu Lee. An act to amend Article 9 of Chapter 3, Title 16, Guam Code Annotated, relative to extending the plug-in electric vehicle rebate program to private business and nonprofit organizations, and extending the rebate phase-out period, and to add a new Chapter 2 to Title 7, Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations relative to implementing the same. Also, Bill 85-35, introduced by also the same senators, authored by Senator Sabina Flores Perez and Speaker Tina Munoz Barnes and Senator Regine Bescu Lee. An act to add a new section 1102.04 to Chapter 1, Division 4, Title 2, Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations relative to incentivizing the procurement of zero-emission vehicles by the government of Guam. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of my colleagues, the author of both bills, Senator Sabina Flores Perez and Senator Kelly Marsh Titano. We have, let me see, for the first bill, which we're going to do pretty much just roll into both bills at the same time because they're both related to each other. But we'll start out with Bill 84-35, and I have Ms. Hani St. Nicholas. If you can please come forward. You're not going to provide testimony. I got Rebecca Respicio. If you can please come forward, Ms. Respicio. I have Jennifer Camacho. That's here. We have Ermi Galito from AK. If you can please come forward. And also, Mr. Crisostamo, are you going to be speaking, Joey? Are you going to be, she is? And she must be Jennifer Camacho? Okay, please come forward. And you'll be speaking on 85-35, but what we'll do is we'll have the two testify. And I know that Senator Perez asked that we just roll into both bills. So after the two ladies have testified, then we'll have you, Jennifer, speak after the two have testified, and we'll just roll into both. And I will start with the general rules for public hearing. The conduct of this public hearing shall be as follows. Those testifying will be recognized in the order of the sign-up on the sign-in sheet. Written testimonies may be read. Lengthy written testimonies should be summarized to about 5 minutes. If you need additional time, please just continue. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide our legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopying. Testimony shall be confined to the substance. Individuals will be allowed to present oral testimony only once. Once you are done, you may be asked to remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony, as may be desired by the members of the panel. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for the proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony or may be asked to leave or be escorted or removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on. So when you press the button, the light will turn on. It'll be red. That you speak into the microphone, and please state your name for the record. We will now have the author of the bills. Please begin with her opening statement. Thank you.
Suzuis Masi, Mr. Chair. So Bill 84-35 promotes the purchasing of electric vehicles on Guam and adopts the rules and regulations related to the local electric vehicle rebate program. The measures authored by myself, Speaker Munoz Barnes, and Senator Regine Bescu Lee. Currently, Guam provides a 10% rebate of up to $3,000 on electric vehicles bought on Guam, but this rebate only applies to individuals. At the time of the bill's introduction, only 3 people in Guam had made use of the rebate. It's important to encourage more electric vehicles on our roads, regardless of whether a person is driving for themselves or on behalf of a business. Electric vehicles are better for our environment and reduce our island's reliance on imported fuel. As such, Bill 8435 extends this rebate to local businesses and nonprofits and allows them to use the rebate for up to 3 vehicles. When this bill was first introduced, only one model of electric vehicle, the Nissan Leaf, was sold on Guam. I'm encouraged to see another model, Hyundai Kona EV, has also been recently introduced to Guam, and that all major car manufacturers plan to begin selling electric vehicles in the near future. An electric four-door car can now be bought on Guam for under $40,000 and will range between 150 to 250 miles and can be charged overnight on a regular outlet or charged much faster on specialized chargers. Electric vehicles are ideal for our island, including for many of our businesses. Governments can play an important role by incentivizing early adoption through this rebate program. Early adopters will help normalize electric vehicles for Guam and speed up the transition to cleaner vehicles. Currently, Guam's law incorporates a phase-out period for the rebates. The first 100 vehicles will receive 10% of the value of the vehicle, up to $3,000. After the 100th electric vehicle is sold, the amount is reduced. The rebate is reduced to 50% for the next 6 months, and then 25% for another 6 months, and then phased out completely. Bill 8435 proposes extending the final 6-month period to 12 months. At the time of the bill was introduced, the Guam Energy Office had $60,000 already appropriated and set aside for the rebate program. This bill will adopt the rules and regulations written by the Guam Energy Office and that had previously gone through the AAA process. However, before being added by the compiler of laws, it was noted that a few elements of the proposed rules and regs were not fully authorized by the Guam Code annotated. As such, the AAA process was stopped, and those portions were removed and the updated rules and regs are attached to this bill. Once Bill 8435 is adopted, the attached rules and regs will also be adopted simultaneously. Regarding Bill 8535, the aim is to establish electric vehicle purchasing preference for Gov Guam. It's authored by myself, Speaker Munya Barnes, and Senator Lee. Once enacted, the law requires Gov Guam to purchase electric vehicles whenever available, provided it meets the needs of the government and is within 10% of the price of a similarly performing non-electric vehicle. Electric vehicles are better for the environment and cheaper to operate. Electric vehicles require significantly less maintenance, which has been a struggle for Gov Guam. The bill allows for careful exemptions should a vehicle not meet the size, range, or other specifications for the government. This mandate will likely only affect small vehicle purchases in the near term, but as the cost of electric buses and larger vehicles drop in the future, this law will incentivize their procurement once they come within 10% of the price range of a similar gas-diesel-powered vehicle. I should note that while Bill 8435 focuses on electric vehicles used by private enterprise, Bill 8535 focuses on prioritizing electric vehicles purchased by the government of Guam. In tandem, these two bills promote electric vehicles in both the private sector and our local government. This is a multi-pronged approach to reducing our island's dependence on oil. Unfortunately, Guam's biggest export is cash. We send hundreds of millions of dollars off island every year to purchase oil and gas. And while it's true that much of our power currently comes from oil, power plants are 3 times more efficient at burning oil than gas-powered cars. And GPA is increasingly using renewable to power our grid. Electric vehicles are not only cleaner, they help keep the money on island. Electric vehicles help our economy and our environment, and I look forward to hearing from the public and seeing this measure adopted into law. It is time our island move forward for cleaner, cheaper modes of transportation, particularly electric vehicles, and our government has an important role in spurring this transition, and I look forward to hearing from the public on this measure. Sutuas Masi, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. We will begin with Ms. Respicio, and then followed by Mr. Calito, and then Ms. Camacho. Ma'am.
Hafa and good morning. Senators, I come in full support of Bill 8435. The Guam Energy Office fully supports the intent of Bill 8435, which amends Public Law 32-164 and will now allow for rebates for private businesses and nonprofit organizations. We originally shared this idea with Senator Perez early on this year, and we shared that we had a concern that individuals weren't taking advantage of the rebates. Since its exemption, only 5 people have applied and received rebates. The primary reason that individuals were not purchasing these vehicles was because of its size. They are small and compact and not accommodating for the average family size on island. So I'm very happy that we're having vendors that are bringing more family-sized vehicles of this nature to the island. We strongly feel that expanding this program to include these demographics of nonprofit and private businesses would incentivize more members of our community to purchase zero-emissions vehicles. Our only concern is the program was only given a third of its allocation. Therefore, this remains a partially funded mandate for our agency. The original law caps the program at $300,000. However, Budget Law 32-181 only allocated $100,000 to support Public Law 32-164. It was indicated that the legislature can allocate the remaining balance of $200,000 in the next fiscal budget year in 2016. However, Budget Law 3366 did not include funds for the program, and to date, the remaining balance has not been budgeted. Of the original $100,000 allocation, there is a balance of $51,714 that we can continue to work with. I'm just asking that the legislative body provide the remaining allocations in the coming budget year. Our office is 100% federally funded, and this program is a local mandate. Once the amendment becomes law, we will do our part to continue to educate the community on the availability of rebates for individuals, businesses, and nonprofit organizations. We will also reestablish and increase our partnership with all vendors on island who sell plug-in electric vehicles. And we do look forward to the passing of this bill and the amendment to the current public law.
Thank you, Mr. Spishu. Mr. Carlito.
Hafaday, Senator San Agustin, Senator Perez, and Senator Taitano. Thank you for the opportunity to present testimony on Bill 8435. My name is Ernie Galito. I'm the Marketing Communications Director for Atkins Kroll, Inc. Atkins Kroll is the automotive retailer for some of the world's largest and most respected brands of Toyota, Lexus, Chevrolet, and BMW. While we appreciate that the authors of Guam Code Annotated Article 9 of Chapter 11, Title 16, recognize that electric vehicles will help drive a transformational change in personal and mass transportation in the future, and that electrified vehicles are becoming viable and competitive. However, please consider the speed of their adoption will vary strongly at the local level. According to an article written by McKinsey Company, stricter emission regulations lower battery cost, more widely available charging infrastructure, and increasing consumer acceptance will create new and strong momentum for the penetration of electrified vehicles, hybrid, plug-in, battery electric, and fuel cell in the coming years. The speed of adoption will be determined by the interaction of the consumer pull, partially driven by the total cost of ownership, and regulatory push, which will vary strongly at the regional and local level. In 2030, the share of electrified vehicles could range from 10 to 50% of new vehicle sales. Adoption rates will be highest in developed dense cities with strict emission regulations and consumer incentives, such as tax breaks, special parking and driving privileges, and discounted electricity pricing, etc. McKinsey also reports that sales penetration is slower in small towns and rural areas with lower levels of charging infrastructure and higher dependency on driving range. And this is such the case that we see in Guam. Consumers of Guam are slow to adopt to electrified vehicles for several reasons. There is a significant price price difference between hybrid models and internal combustion engines of the same vehicles, and so consumers are hesitant to adopt. The fluctuations in price of gasoline also doesn't seem to influence consumers in considering the cost of ownership with a hybrid model, since driving distances on Guam are relatively short and drivers just adjust to price increases at the fuel pump. Additionally, there are no government incentives such as tax breaks, parking, and driving privileges, as well as ubiquitous electric charging stations around the island to encourage electrified vehicle ownership. We strongly suggest that the language of Bill 8435 be changed from the Plug-in Electric Vehicle Rebate Program Act to Electrified Vehicle Rebate Program Act, with the intention to include all electrified vehicles, such as hybrid, plug-in, battery electric, and fuel cell models. In this manner, then the consumers will have a wider choice of options in today's market and in the future. With the speed and velocity of technology, there will be more revolutionary changes in the automotive industry over the next 10 years than there was in the last 50 years. We also recommend that an amendment be made in subsection 3903, rebate incentive offered, paragraph B. Instead of limiting rebates for each business or nonprofit, shall only be eligible for up to 3 rebates cumulatively for said businesses or nonprofits' lifetime. We suggest there should be not any limit for business or nonprofit organizations to qualify for the rebate program. Businesses such as taxi cabs, car rentals, driving schools, fast food franchises with delivery services, courier services such as DHL, FedEx, and UPS, and others should be able to avail themselves of the rebate. These commercial entities have vehicles that would consume the most carbon-based energy with longer and more frequent driving times. The electrified vehicle rebate incentive will help consumers and commercial entities overcome the hurdle of a higher cost for electrified vehicles. We also suggest an amendment to subsection 3905, rebates, funded. While the intent to draw down the amount of $300,000 from the general fund, consumers and purchasers will not know how much of the fund has been expended, nor will they know if the allocable amount has been spent in other areas of government operations. We suggest, in the event the funds are not available from the auspices of the Guam Energy Office, then the GEO can issue a tax certificate to the purchaser equal to the amount of the rebate payment. Even if there are funds available from the GEO for the rebate program, the GEO should make quarterly or semi-annual announcements in the newspaper of general circulation about the status of the fund and its remaining balance. In closing, Atkins-Kroll is in favor of successful passage of Bill 8435 with the above-mentioned amendments. These amendments will, 1, provide consumers and commercial entities a broader choice of electrified vehicles. 2, present incentives for commercial entities to utilize environmental-friendly vehicles in their operations. And 3, the GEO can promote cleaner and more efficient models of transportation in the territory of Guam. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senators, for this opportunity to present testimony on Bill 8435.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Camacho.
Half a day and good morning. Thank you, Senators, for having us. And thank you to the authors of this bill. I'm speaking on behalf of both Cars Plus. I'm the Senior Vice President, and for GATA, which is Guam Auto Dealers Association, which consists of the 6 new car dealers on island, and where I'm the treasurer for GATA, as we call it. And so just to kind of summarize, I think Ernie had a wonderful testimony, but to put it on record, GATA is in full support of Bill 84-35, and we thank you for bringing this up to us and for allowing us to be a part of the process. Much appreciated. And GATA will, in the next 48 hours, also provide written testimony for your review as well.
Thank you. Senator Kelly Marsh Titan, do you have any questions for the folks?
Sainama Asi for coming out here this morning and providing some of this information. So my questions are about understanding the context of what we're encouraging. And I think this is good for me to understand better, but then also for our listening audience to understand what we're discussing and some of the details that are involved. So if I could have an understanding of publicly, I believe we do have at least one place with public electric charging stations, but perhaps the Energy Office could let us know at this point in time where we do have electric public parking stations.
Yeah, I am aware that the Guam Power Authority does have plug-in stations. There is a private business, Coast 360 has a plug-in station. I am aware that Nissan, because they were the original providers of the Leaf model, does have a rapid charger plug-in station. But that is something that we have discussed in our office with regards to, are we even able to meet the demands of something like this? And, you know, I mean, realistically, if there's not a lot of plug-in vehicles on the road, there's not going to be a lot of plug-in stations that businesses will invest in. But it's definitely something that we can look further into with regards to expanding this particular program and then meeting the demands for the community with regards to more plug-in stations.
Sainama Asi for your information. Am I wrong? Am I misremembering? Is there a public charging station at the Micronesian Mall as well? Do you know? Okay, I could have sworn I saw a couple of sections there at the outside portion of one of their parking areas, but
I'll
maybe
definitely
I'm
drive by and
incorrect.
take a look today. I do
Yeah.
know that more businesses are making parking spaces available for more fuel-efficient vehicles like hybrid cars and compact cars. But plug-in station, I am interested. I'll take a look today.
Okay.
I also would like to add, and we actually drove here on a 100% electric vehicle, and I will say that although there are not a lot of public charging stations, these cars are so cool. You just charge them at home in your garage. It might take a little bit longer. It charges overnight, like your testimony says, but you can just plug and play at home, charge up overnight while you're sleeping, and you're good to go for 150 to 250 miles on a full charge.
And I think that's, thank you for sharing that. I think that's those changes in technology as the industry continues to grow, we get more efficiency out of it. And it's not necessarily just making it from one place to another and having to charge as we go. With those areas for the Guam Energy Office, with those areas that you mentioned, GPA, Coast 360, Nissan, are those available to the public?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Okay, and again, I think that's very good to hear. I think for some people that will make a difference to know that there are some options out there. I mean, we do have people trying to come up with an hypothetical, right? Like maybe they live in a sailboat and I don't know that they have some of the same options for plugging in a car that the rest of us would. So for them to know that there is some availability, I think would be helpful to people in general, but maybe people in certain circumstances. Do you have an understanding of what it takes to set up charging at home? Does it take specialized installation of something?
Mr. Garland, what we'll do is we'll have you testify because before you answer that, because I think do you have a testimony you want to present?
No.
Oh, okay, so you're just going
I'll
to join?
just answer the question. Yes.
Okay, then that'll work, sir, thank
My
you.
name is Philip Gerling. I'm the general manager at Nissan.
Yes, sir.
Typically for home charging, there are home chargers that are available for 240 volt, which means that you charge in about 4 hours for a full charge on an EV, at least on the Nissan Leaf. Those are installed by a certified electrician. so that you meet code and all that. But you can also plug in a regular outlet, and that will take you overnight 12 hours to do a full charge. We have about 26 leafs on the islands that have been running since 2013, and we haven't encountered any problems with home charging. Of course, we offer our customers the option of a 4-hour charge or the quick charger, which takes about 20 minutes to 30 minutes for a 80% charge.
Seduce Masi for that information. So if somebody wants to opt to get the that special charger, what is the cost of that, including, at least ballpark figure, including the electrician to install it?
I'm not sure what the cost of the electrician is. The chargers have become a lot less expensive. They used to be about $1,000, but you can get them on Amazon now for about $500-600. So you can order them right online and have an electrician install them at your home.
And if the Guam Energy Office knows the answer to this, what would be the cost of charging the car at home given our electric rates? Is there any ability, maybe there are some studies out there that have compared this to the cost per gallon that we could figure out?
I'll definitely get you the exact cost and submit that. But I did speak with actually one of Senator Perez's staff, Cyrus, who owns one of these vehicles and did avail himself of the rebate. I think he may have been the first one. And I did ask him how much did his average power bill go up on a month? And he said about $40 to $50. And then I asked him how much was he saving in gas as compared to a previous vehicle, and it was about $250. So he definitely has a lot to say about this electric plug-in vehicle. But we will get you those specifics based on current fuel rates.
Well, they sound like very promising numbers, and so it's very good to hear them because this may give some real encouragement to people to hear these kind of testimonies that perhaps they could be saving on a monthly basis a great deal, and that could go towards offsetting the cost of a new car and changing that mode. So that's very encouraging to hear. Now, on the other hand, and again, this may be something that needs some additional looking into, but given that a lot of our electricity at this point in time is from imported fuel, is there still felt to be that trade-off, that benefit to our carbon footprint at this time by using electric?
Absolutely. It's really small changes at a time. And, this public law has been in existence for a few years, but we did only have 5 people avail themselves of the rebates. And according to Nissan, you have, how many vehicles have you sold?
About 26 around the road.
26. So I don't know why the other 21 didn't get rebates with us, but we'll look into that.
Somewhere commercial.
Oh, commercial, okay. So see, I definitely feel that it's a way to go. This legislative body has already made many changes in law that leads us towards the right direction with regards to our environment and sustainability. And I'm really happy that it's happening now. And so now with the availability of more different types of vehicles that can suit the sizes of families, I do really see our community going into this direction.
Seduce Masi for the answers that you've been able to give. And I too, I'm very supportive of bills like this because our environment is what we have. We're so dependent on it for our economy, for the health of our community, for the health and benefit of us all, the appreciation of us all. It gives us medicine, it gives us so many things. And so I don't think that cost is always the only factor. For a lot of people, it may come up as being very important, But I think we need to figure out ways to encourage all of us to understand benefits that we get that are beyond the cost consideration. That it's about being those stewards for our children and our grandchildren, and thinking about what kind of island we're going to be passing on to them, how many landfills it's going to have, landfill cells, and landfills themselves, and with being more dependent on imported fuels, we're just reading continuously about accidental fuel spills happening here and there around the globe, and we've had some situations ourselves. So we need to factor in all of these things when we're thinking about ourselves as stewards. So those are the questions I had at this point in time. There was one other, but I don't think it's maybe really fair to fling it out there at this point, because I probably can't give you enough information. But I remember being at a presentation at the environmental conference that we had just recently, or one of them, I should say. We've had several. And they had mentioned, one of the government entities had mentioned considering the purchase of an electric bus. Now, buses are expensive, so I need to make some comparisons there, but they were saying that at this point, the bus that they were looking at was an electric bus, but costing nearly $1 million. So when we're looking at the government side, when we're looking at the bill that looks at the government, I would have faith, I would want to have faith that government entity is going to take in the due considerations that this bill calls for, that there needs to be some justifiable reasoning behind purchasing it. So I guess I won't ask you your assessment, because I can't give you enough information about it, but I do think that that's an important thing about the bill. I believe it's 85 that talks about the government side of things. But there is a call for the government agency being able to justify and assess that it is a true benefit for the community. And so I think it's good to have those regulations and those guidelines as we go forward. Siduous Maasi to the chair for allowing me to ask my questions.
Thank you, Senator. I've got a few questions. Mr. Carlito, you brought up tax breaks and parking. I'm kind of more in support of the tax break than a rebate. And the reason why is that if a bunch of the dealers are going to have all the charging station, I'd rather give you a break than to have to go after the energy office and asking for, can you rebate us for whatever we need? And the reason why I mention this is because if like the mall, GPO, everybody else sees that they can get a tax break by setting up this station, that automatically give you the parking privileges, because you park there, you're not going to be there 12 hours. You're probably there for hopefully 4 or less, and then they can do the rapid charging that was mentioned earlier. And I can see where we can get the energy office to come up with what would the rebate be, and that if they establish the charging station, there'll be a separate meter that will measure how much they're paying, and then they get a break for that. And it kind of like creates that an incentive, and then it'd be easier for everybody else that needs to charge, as much as they, we have to admit it that sometimes when we go home, even if you've got a electric car, oops, I forgot to charge it. But if you know where you're going, if you're going to visit one of the dealers or one of the malls, you can charge. And you can get the parking privilege up front because you got an electric car. You're going to be charging. I mean, there's only 26 cars out there. I don't think all 26 are going to go to the same mall at the same time. You probably get 2 or 3, and then they're scattered throughout the island. And I honestly believe that may be a way to promote, because I'm in support of this bill, both bills.
Well, Senator, if I
Yes.
may, I also wanted to go back to including all types of electrified vehicles. Mention that if we set up charging stations with a tax incentive or a rebate program, it's going to take some time in order to allocate space get all the necessary equipment, do the procurement process, advertise it, making sure that you're going to have this unique benefit for 70 or more, however, plug-in vehicles that this be available to. But getting back to including all electrified vehicles, including hybrids, which are readily available for all brands. Almost every brand has a unique offering in hybrid. If you offer the tax breaks or the rebate program when this bill is passed, including hybrids, then people, consumers, and commercial entities can avail of it today. You know, as soon as it passes, they can apply for it. And so that would bring velocity in the implementation of the program, as opposed to just waiting for the charging stations, because that may be beyond 2020 or 2021, who knows. But with the passage of this bill, if it's successfully signed by the governor, it could be implemented as early as Q1.
All right, no, okay. No, I can understand the rebate part, but I know the tax break is going to take work on the energy office. Yes, sir, you were going to speak.
Chairman San Augustine, really the industry is changing. All right, so all brands are now getting more into electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles, charging hybrid vehicles. Eventually, the oil industry will start switching, and we see it in the media already that some stations are being converted to electric charging stations in the U.S. mainland. Battery technology is changing. You'll be able to charge a car in 10 minutes instead of a 30-minute wait time. And eventually, just like in the mainland, you will pay for your charge. Basically, you'll swipe your card and get a charge just as you pay at a gas station for your full tank of gas. I think that eventually we'll get there, but at the early stages, having an incentive obviously is good to promote the industry and to get people to consider the option. Nissan Guam has offered free charging to its Leaf customers from the start, and we still do. But you know, we also look at eventually, as the fleet grows, we'll have to have a charging system where people can swipe their card and come and charge their vehicle at any time, and avail themselves of that benefit. So I think the industry is going to change, going to evolve, but we're in the early stages, and vehicles also are going to evolve quickly, depending on how soon they come to market. In Guam, that may vary depending on the size of market we have, of course.
Thank you, sir. And yes, in the mainland, I'm very aware of that. In the mainland, they do have charging stations. Pretty much almost every mall there, I've seen it. And the parking provisions are there. So I just wanted to state that I'm in support of, other than Ms. Respicio coming to us and saying, can we get more money for the rebate? Why don't we set up a system where we can make it a tax break? And then people can actually see it. She'll be identifying it to us. We will know the impact to the government revenue. We will know how we can adjust and know where our money is going. And like Senator Kelly Marsh brought up about the dump and everything else, and we can just work it out with everybody. All the dealers here would be, I just hope that Cars Plus doesn't do that to Harleys, but you know, go ahead and do it to all the cars you want, even though it's coming, but you know, I'll work with that. Sir, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, there is another benefit to electric vehicles, full electric vehicles, is that you know, you don't have waste oil, maintenance will be reduced, so the waste products generated by the industry will also be reduced. Now, there's a question of batteries, of course. I know that in Japan they are recycling batteries into storage units so that they can store power and reuse it in buildings at night. So they use solar power during the day, and the battery, the aged batteries as sources for power during the night. So that technology is also evolving and changing, but definitely the reduction in waste product will really help the island as well.
Yes. And I'm happy you mentioned the renewable energy, the solar issue, because that's what I'm pushing for with many of my colleagues, that we basically do renewable energy of all GovGuam, schools specifically. And then as we extend it out and as the energy office starts giving us some feedback, then we start working with the community, with everybody, and start saying, if you're reducing, then GPA, reduce also your rates, because as everybody's promoting renewable energy, the price just keeps going up in the power, and I'm not comfortable with that. I'm just can't figure that out. But thank you for your testimonies. Senator Paris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think there was one testimony regarding Bill 8535. Ms. Rebecca, did you wanted to?
Well, I just checkmarked the oral thing, the oral box, but I'll just quickly just tell you that as the director of the Guam Energy Office, we are in full support of Bill 8535, and that when this is passed, we will do our part to educate our counterparts in the government of Guam as far as what kind of vehicles are available, where they can purchase them, and give them some of the research behind it. So we will do our part to promote this with our counter agencies.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I believe the UN climate change goals for the U.S., one of the 3 goals was to transition completely to electric vehicles. And it's my understanding that a lot of these car companies are actually producing or have goals in that same arena. So I do appreciate everybody coming out and providing testimony today. I'm also wanted to get your input, Ms. Rebecca, regarding expanding rebates to not just electric vehicles, but electrified vehicles.
That actually was one of the things that I had discussed with my staff, because when I first learned about this program, it was only when I came over to the Guam Energy Office. I wasn't aware of it as a regular member of our community, and so I did ask whether or not the rebates were available for those that were purchasing hybrid, because hybrid was really it's very popular. We are going into the direction of full zero emission vehicles on our roadways, but it is a stepping stone. So maybe we can have those further discussions. Maybe maybe not the original rebate as intended, the 10% up to the 30,000, but maybe a smaller percentage, or even your idea with the tax breaks. So we should definitely have more dialogue on that. I don't oppose to it, because it's better. It's better, it's the halfway stepping stone, perhaps, if we can look at it in that direction. So maybe a smaller incentive, and then the zero emissions or the plug-in vehicles could be the full incentive. But I'll get more feedback from our staff. I'll go back to the office and get their input, and we can definitely have some dialogue on that.
What about federal subsidies or federal grants? I know the Department of Interior has these energizing, more renewable energy type of grants. Is that something Energy Office is going to pursue?
Definitely, and I was thinking about this program. $300,000 is not a lot of money when we're talking about what we really want to do for our community. But again, the intent of the bill really was just to get 100 vehicles out there that are zero emissions. But I have been talking to the staff about looking for federal funding to maybe continue this program for sustainability purposes, and to keep it going, and to grow and expand on what we offer the community for making those changes. And so we are definitely looking into, getting some federal money, or looking for some federal grants that are in line with this local law, so that we can see it past just the $300,000 cap that it's given.
And are there restrictions for federal grants? So do they allow businesses, or is it just individuals?
It really just depends on what the solicitation is for the specific grant. And I mean, it would really just depend also on how we write the grant. So, we would write it in a way that's designed for full benefits for our community as a whole, unless the grant is specific only to residential. But it really is how we would write the grant and how we approach it. So.
Appreciate all the ideas that have come to the table today, and I appreciate everybody coming here. We'll definitely think about it a little bit more as we move forward with the bill. So I appreciate, thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and I think this is the right direction for Guam as we move away from, our importation of fuel. And, basically in the long run, it's better for our environment, and it'll be better for, our economy, I think, because we can rely more on our renewable energy rather than importing all this fuel. So thank you for coming here today to do this, Masi.
Thank you, Senator Paris. And I'd like to mention also that, Ms. Respicio, you mentioned you got 51,000 still sitting in the bank, and it's not, hasn't been appropriated to you or allowed to use the money, right?
No, we are allowed to use the money. That is just the balance of the first allocation. And so that, if somebody walked in today and applied for the rebate, we would have the money to accommodate that, for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you don't need the authorization to use
No.
it. All right. There being no one else to testify, unless any of the folks here would want to say anything in addition to that? Yes, sir.
You want to hear my testimony on 8535?
Oh, you have another, we've only had one, but yes, please, if you have we were trying to group
It's
it
very
all.
short. It's very short.
Okay, please.
Yeah,
please.
what it is again, it's in our introduction, we wanted to say thank you very much for this opportunity to testify. And as we stated in our testimony for Bill 8435, we appreciate the authors of Guam Code annotated Article 9 of Chapter 11, Title 16, recognize electric vehicles to help drive a transformational change in personal and mass transportation in the future, in that electrified vehicles are becoming more viable. However, we strongly suggest in Bill 8535 to be changed to an act to add a new subsection of 1102.04 to Chapter 1, Division 4, Title 2, Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations relative to incentivizing the procurement of electrified vehicles by the government of Guam. This is the intention to include all electrified vehicles such as hybrid, plug-in, battery electric, and fuel cell models. In this manner, then the government of Guam will have a wider choice of options in today's market and in the future. We also suggest that all further references to zero emissions vehicle should be replaced with electrified vehicles. In summary, Atkins-Kroll is in favor of the successful passage of Bill number 8535 with the above-mentioned amendments, since it will provide a broader choice of electrified vehicles for the government of Guam to meet the purpose of the intended vehicles while operating efficiently and cleanly. And, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my testimony.
Thank you, sir.
On 8535.
And if we can get a copy of that, because many of your statements on both bills now, we want to be able to take a look at it and see how we can.
I submitted it to the clerk, both copies.
Oh, okay. I'll follow up then. There being no one else to testify, this committee will continue to receive. This concludes the bill 84-35 COR and bill 85-35 COR. The committee will continue to receive testimonies. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. Augustine at gmail.com. And si Juz Masi for your attendance today and participating in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. This concludes the public hearing. It is now 9:55, November 22nd. Thank you.